So this is a recipe for creme patisserie. If you want to use something other than cream, this is a custard mixture. So quite a thick custard where you can pipe it into things, but it would also show more skill in your work. So you can use it for filling and adding texture to fruit tarts. You can use it for eclairs or profiteroles. So I have 150 mils of double cream. If you wanted to make it slightly healthier, you could use single cream, but I'm using double cream. And I've also got 300 mils of milk, and I'm just going to pop those together into the saucepan and put those on a gentle heat while I sort out the rest of the ingredients. So those are just going to go on a nice gentle heat while I sort everything else out. So I have a bowl into which I am going to put 3 tablespoons of corn flour, and I'm using rounded tablespoons of corn flour because I want this creme pat to be thick enough to pipe. So into that I'm going to add 50 grams of sugar. I'm going to put in about half a teaspoon of vanilla essence because I do like to have a little bit of vanilla in a custard. So half a teaspoon of vanilla essence, and I also need to put in 3 egg yolks. Now the egg yolks, I'm not going to use the egg whites at all in this recipe, it is just the egg yolks. So normally we'd be really concerned about making sure that the egg yolks did not break and we didn't get any egg yolk in with our egg white. If you want to use these egg yolks or egg whites for something else, that's fine, but I am still going to do them one at a time over a plate because it's good practice it's good practice separating your eggs, but also I don't want to get any egg yolk in those whites because the chances are I'm going to use those later on to do something like a meringue. So that's 1 egg yolk in the bowl. Okay, 2, second, and that does have a tiny bit of egg yolk in it, that one, and then the third. So if I'd kept that egg white separate, I could still use that for meringue, but I'll use it for something else now. So 3 egg whites in there, 3 egg yolks in the bowl with the vanilla, caster sugar and corn flour. And then while the cream is heating, what I need to do with this is just whisk this together until it's smooth. So I want this, corn flour's puffs everywhere, but I want this to be a nice smooth mixture. And I'm not going to use an electric mixer because there is no point. So all I'm trying to do is mix these evenly together. There we go. And that will do. So I've just got a nice mixture in there which smells actually lovely of vanilla. Right, the cream is now heated, and what I've got is the very start of bubbles around the edge of that saucepan, and if I put my finger in, it's too hot to keep it in there, but it's not boiling yet. So what I need to do is whisk that hot cream mixture into my egg mixture. So I'm just going to put a little bit in to start, and you do not want to do this with boiling liquid if you can avoid it, because if you don't whisk fast enough, what you'll do is scramble the egg yolks. So having started that off and made sure that I've whisked that up properly, I'm just going to add the rest of this hot milk into there. So all my hot milk and cream is in there, and it hasn't even got hot enough to cook the protein around the edge of the saucepan, but this is not yet cooked. So it needs to now go back into the saucepan, and it should be leaving your bowl clean. So there shouldn't be any corn flour or anything else left in the bowl. And then this needs to be stirred on the heat, not too high a heat again, because we don't want to scramble those egg yolks, but stirred over a gentle heat, and it might take 5 minutes until it starts to thicken. On the cooker, I've swapped to a wooden spoon because I want to be able to get right into the corners of the pan, and a whisk won't do that. So I just need to keep this moving until it's thickened. You can see at the moment it just looks like I've got coloured milk in the saucepan. So just keep it moving until it thickens, and it should coat the back of the spoon when it's thickened. What you don't want it to do is boil. So a nice gentle heat. We want to thicken the corn flour. So we need that to gelatinise, absorb the liquid from the milk and the starch grains to burst, but we don't really want to do that. We don't want to get it to boiling, and it will gelatinise before boiling point. So keep it on the move, keep stirring, don't walk away from it, and make sure you get into the corners of your pan so that nothing sticks around the edges. And if you just keep stirring this on a gentle heat, hopefully you can see the difference. You can see it's starting to thicken. It's not quite there yet, so I'm not going to stop yet. And it's not quite thick enough to coat the back of the spoon, so it's not quite coating the back of my spoon, but it is starting to thicken. So I'm just going to keep going, keep stirring. And I can see, looks almost as if there are lumps forming in it as the corn flour starts to burst and gelatinise. And what you need to do is not panic about that, because the mixture is still not boiling, and just keep stirring, because we want that starch to cook through evenly and thicken this up. And here we go, it's thickened a bit more, it's smoothed itself out, and it is now coating the back of the spoon. If you think it has lumps in, you can whisk it, but I would wait until it has thickened before you whisk. So it's not going to get much thicker than that, and I don't want it to boil. And as I say, it coats the back of the spoon nicely, so you can see how thick it's going to be. So I'm going to turn the heat off under that, and before I do anything else with it, I just want to taste a little bit. Now it's cooked. That's quite sweet for me, but there is a flavour of vanilla in there, and it's going to be fine for filling choux buns, pastry tarts, eclairs. As I said, you can't use this while it's hot, obviously. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of greaseproof paper. Could use cling film, but I don't have cling film at home. But I'll cut a piece of greaseproof paper just big enough to go over the top of the custard and stop it forming a skin as it cools. Okay, so I've got my piece of greaseproof paper, baking parchment, and all I'm going to do is just pop that on the top, try and get rid of any air bubbles, and that will just prevent that from forming a skin as it cools. If you need to use this more quickly, what you can do is stand it in a sink of cold water, not all the way up your saucepan, and if you stir 3 times in one direction and then 3 times in the other, it will cool really quickly if you haven't got time to wait for it. I've got time to wait for this, so I'm just going to put that to one side.